Hi, everybody. It is Lee Milteer and welcome, warriors. This is your host, Lee Milteer, the Blonde Warrior of Solutions. And this is the Grass Grown Network, which we call GRWN. And this is our first show. So thank you so much for being here today. And guess what, folks? We have some links at the bottom, so you'll be able to like and pass this on to other people who could use some assistance on all levels during these challenging times. Plus, we are a startup, and we're depending on help from our listeners. So if you will subscribe or donate to help us bring truth, solutions, and assistance in these very, very troubling times. I'd like to tell you a little something about myself since this is our first show. I am a professional speaker, an author. I've written 16 books. I've produced over 100 educational programs over the years. I've spoken to very large corporations all over the world. And I grew up on a ranch in Chuckytuck, Virginia, and that gave me a great basis for, really being able to discern truth from fiction. And so if you want to know more about me, all you have to do is go to milteer.com and you'll be able to get all the details. But we have a great show today in our first show. And our guest today is Terry Wildemann. And she is an intuitive success navigator. That's not a title you hear very often. She has a fabulous book. It's called The Enchanted Boardroom. And it's about evolving into an unstoppable, intuitive entrepreneur, and that's where we all want to be. So I'm going to give you a little bit of information about Terry, and then we'll bring her on. But she's a speaker, she's a leadership coach, and she's a healer. She's the founder of Intuitive Leadership and the Shiftology, which is an accountability matrix type program. Her approach is rooted in over 30 years of experience speaking to thousands of people across the globe, clients from colleges, universities, chamber of commerce, banks, businesses, military, and government agencies. And she's also authored other books, and her proven methods have helped countless clients achieve success and freedom in their life. So she's a gal you really want to listen to. So welcome, Terry.
I am so thrilled to be here on this brand new inaugural show. It's fantastic.
It is fantastic, and you're perfect. And I don't mind telling you, Terry is a friend of mine. She's in my Success Smarts Club. She's very valuable there. And basically, we're so thrilled to have her. Now, I have to share with everybody that one of the reasons I chose Terry is in our Success Smarts Club just last month, I had just finished reading Napoleon Hill's book, Outwitting the Devil. And this book is so fabulous, you should really invest in this book. But one of the great things about the book is it was only released in 2003, but it was actually written in 1933. And Napoleon Hill's wife and his publisher didn't want to publish this book because it would ruffle feathers and it would scare people. But one of the points we're going to talk about today that's actually in this book is about having your own invisible counselors and using your intuition. And Terry is the only other book that I know right now, Enchanted Boardroom, that also talks about this. But before we get deep into that, we're going to talk about intuition and why it's so important right now with all the things that are going on in the world, how frazzled, frustrated, demoralized that a lot of us feel just every day waking up to a bucket of new stuff that seems overwhelming and scary. But we all have to remember that mainstream media is not telling us the truth, and that the only truth we can truly count on comes from inside of ourselves. So we're going to jump off from there, Terry. With all these years as an intuitive leader, tell me what are some of your best tips to help people get into a frame of mind where they can actually hear and feel their own intuition and not feel like it's my imagination or it's my fear or it's something else.
Well, I have a technique called the quick shift zone. And the quick shift zone is a simple 4-step process that teaches you how to tap out of up here into in here. You're connecting the brain in the head with the brain in the heart. And this is based on science, and it's a very simple 4 steps. And those 4 steps are: number one, shift your attention to this area of the body. Number two, breathe deeply. Number three, think of something that makes you feel good. Number four, relax. It's that simple, but it's so simple that people don't think it works. In fact, this specific tool is what I say saved my life. And I've been using it now for 22 years. It's very, very powerful. And people can get it at quickshiftzone.com. It's free. I'm sharing it with everybody. They can just go there and they can download it. And the reason it's so powerful is because it works with our physiology. It actually reduces the DHEA, the cortisol levels, which creates stress in the body, and it increases the DHEA levels. And when you do that, you get into a state where you can listen better. The stress starts to float away. You can see, you can hear, see, and feel on a very different level with practice of this technique. And again, some people think in the beginning that, oh, this is just a bunch of hooey. Keep at it, because you'll be very surprised at the results when you keep practicing it. And I share with people, do you have 60 seconds in your life? Do you think so? Well, do you have 60 seconds in an hour? That's all it takes.
Well, one of the reasons I want to talk about this, Terry, is because I'm sure you've noticed this in your life and in your personal life. The other day, my husband was not feeling very well, and he got what I call amnesia of the protocols to do if you feel a certain way. And instead of doing any of those protocols, because he was disrupted in his thinking, he was a little stressed or traumatized because, he hadn't expected, to have this little food poisoning episode.
Yeah.
But instead of doing the things that we know to do if you should get food poisoning, he was just sort of, I would say, emotionally or mentally floundering. And as it happened, it really struck home to me how on a daily basis
Yeah.
that everybody gets amnesia when they're in a tough situation. So your process is so fabulous because what happens is it grounds you. It allows you to let the knowledge that's already in you to save you and help you sort of bubble up or be heard or be seen or be acknowledged. I'm sure you have seen the same sort of problems with people of the amnesia.
That happened to me. I will never, and as you were talking, I'm like, oh my God, that's the perfect scenario. When I was walking up the aisle for the rehearsal of my wedding, this was 36 years ago. I'm walking up the aisle and all of a sudden I just went completely blank. I just went into amnesia mode, and my mother and my future mother-in-law caught it. And she's like, go, wake her up, go help her. It was because of pure unadulterated stress.
Right.
That on that day, that was the only scenario that came in so hard. That is the best way to describe it. I never thought about it that way, but it was amnesia.
Well, it is amnesia.
It was.
It's amnesia that when we hear these very heart-wrenching bad news for us freedom people, that sometimes our fear fantasized experiences appearing real kick into gear, and we get all these scenarios of how bad it's going to be, and we envision bad things for the future. And as warriors, one of the things I've studied a lot is samurai warriors, because I actually have worked in Japan and do a lot of business with Japan. And the books about samurai warriors are so clear about pause before you take action, collect yourself, have a steel view of exactly what you want to happen. Combat is your last option. That is not your first option. They don't go into battles with the concept of I'm here to kill you. They go into battles with, I'm doing the right thing. So one of the reasons this entire network got put together is because mainstream media is overwhelming the population, and
Yeah.
anything and positive has been, snuffed out and not
Mhm.
allowed, or we're called conspiracy theorists, which all of ours are right, by the way. Uh, so going to something like, one of my books is called Success is an Inside Job, but I personally know that in these times, have to pull myself into a private place. I have to calm my breathing, like you say, and actually allow my intuition to have a space to come in, because I might be afraid.
Mhm. Well, this morning I watched a very powerful movie where I need that after I watched it, and I'm glad I did. It is called What is a Woman? And I sat on the couch and I felt I really needed to get very quiet and listen to my intuition because I was getting overwhelmed with sadness. And I got very quiet, no music, no nothing, just silence. And it was interesting the information that was coming to me. And it was all about, it was funny, the things with my website. I'm like, really? But there's a reason for that because of what it is that we are meant to be doing. You and I and other warriors who are doing the work of leadership and intuition and law of attraction and values and patriotism, that kind of thing there were a couple things that I was told I needed to fix. And I went in and was like, sure enough, I needed to fix that stuff. And what I got was, where the sadness is concerned, to trust the process and just listen to where I'm being led. A lot of what was in that movie um, was quite upsetting to me because for various reasons. I'm not going to get into it. But what I will say is there's something going on where we are being led down a very powerful warrior path that warriors do. I don't like to use the word need, but I'm going to use the word need because need equal lack. But those of us who are warriors need to really listen to what is going on in here, not what is going on in here. We really need to connect both of them together, because when both of them are together, we're very coherent. When they're separated, we are missing parts of ourselves. And you were talking about the samurais. We're a military family. We're a Navy family. My husband teaches at the U.S. Naval War College. He's about to retire. And one thing he has always said, the Naval War College is about teaching how to avoid war. Not, that's what it's all about. It's the science and the study of war. It's not about, just what you just said. I'm not going to go in to kill you. I'm going in there to learn, study, pause. What works, what doesn't work, taking a step back. And when we take a step back and listen, the insights that come can be extremely unexpected, because the heart knows what works and what doesn't work. And when we merge the practical brain with the emotional heart, then we become powerful warriors of the light. We become powerful warriors where we can stand and allow, let's face it, there are people who need, I'm not telling people what to do. I'm sharing people insight on what to do for themselves so they do what they feel is right for them.
That is correct. And I think that that has been a bugaboo in the world of what's right for them, because people have been programmed for so long, follow the medical, follow the government, follow the teachers, follow all of those things. And as we dig into this world that has been illusion, we're figuring out that most of this was propaganda. It was narratives. There was an agenda, and it wasn't such a good agenda for us.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, Terry, one of the things that when I have conversations with people, and I did this for a long time, I'm not really doing it anymore, trying to enlighten people, for a better lack of word. I realized that their number one thing is, I just cannot buy this, Lee, because I cannot believe my government would do this to me. I cannot
Oh,
believe, I cannot believe my doctor would lie to me. I cannot believe that, you know, the educational system would do this. And those people have actually allowed external things to be their leaders
yeah.
versus being internal, a leader to yourself. And literally every day, if you listen to back channels or Rumble or Signal or Truth or Truth,
Yeah.
what was it? Truth, all those truth
Right.
programs.
Mhm.
One of the problems, Truth Social,
Social, right.
one of the problems is,
Totally.
like people are helping us, but they're also giving us bad news. And
Yeah.
you read this because you want to be part of, I know what's going on, but it sort of depletes your day. And I will tell you, my intuition, when I read a lot of stuff, it will say, literally out loud to me in my head, it will say, this shall not pass. This is not going to happen. That just because somebody mouthed on it or somebody in the government put a bill on it, if you study the government, it takes the government forever to make any changes, to pass bills and actually get the bills into going, even after they pass the bills, just getting this thing moving.
Yeah.
So I'm getting a lot of that, we're being scared to death on the external world, so people will give up. What do you think?
Well, that goes back to Outwitting the Devil. That's what it's all about. That book was written in 1938. For crying out loud, it could have been written yesterday. And a couple things here with what you were talking about. When I was in my mid-20s, I was told by four doctors, okay, that I would never have children. Four of them. But that's 8, 4. But I listened to my intuition. I knew from the age of 8 that I was going to have 2 children and adopt one. I just knew that. And by listening to my inner intuition, not what was out here, not what I was being told. And oh, by the way, I come from a family of doctors. Okay. I trusted my gut. I knew. And my oldest daughter was born 9 months and 2 days after my wedding date. My second child 4 years later, and my third was adopted. And he's from another country, and he and my oldest had the same birth month. So that's all listening to intuition. And when we listen to that inner guidance and how we feel, instead of allowing all of the outside jumble to get to us and to try to and I'm going to use the word try to influence us. I'm committed. There's a difference between trying and commitment. I'm committed to listen to my intuition, because what I know is that I have been shown every step of the way in my life where to go, what to do, and how to do it. And the times I didn't listen, chaos ensued in my life every single time. So that's why I love teaching leaders about intuition, because when we trust, and by the way, I didn't trust it in the beginning. I was scared to death of it. I ran away from it. And that's when the chaos was happening. And it took a long time. I mean, it took a few decades to really trust what was happening. And then when I became a Reiki master in 1998, and my first Reiki attunement was like in 1996, and boom, all these spiritual gifts came about. And I gotta tell you, sitting there going, oh boy. Hold on tight, put on the seatbelt, because this is crazy. And I'm a very practical, tactical, logical person. And all this spiritual stuff was coming at me. And I'm a big angel person. I always believed in angels, and my angels have been talking to me forever. But this was different. This was seeing things differently, hearing things differently, feeling things differently. And that's when I knew that there's so much more to this practical mumbo jumbo that we're that outside forces are doing everything possible to feed us. And when something doesn't feel right, we really would do very well for ourselves, our families, and our friends to listen to it, because your feelings are key to what works and what doesn't work. And anyone who tries to dismiss how you feel, next, next, next. It's that
Oh,
simple. Next.
absolutely. In my life, I've been saved a lot from intuition. I traveled 100 cities a year doing public seminars one year, and the airlines were crazy. And sometimes all the flights would be canceled, and I would just sit and say to myself, okay, I have to get there. So my intuition, have to tell me which airline to get on, make sure I actually get there to be able to give this speech. And I was always right. I would be on the plane, the only plane that would be going to that city, to make sure I could get there. I had an interesting situation where I was moving from a house, and long story short, thieves actually stole the van that part of my it was all my treasures. So we had a big van for all the furniture, but we had a separate van for all of my collectibles and, you know, things, antiques and things that were super important to me, or things I collected. And when the police came because it got stolen, I'm sitting there talking to them, and I got a flash, and I said, "Oh, by the way, I know exactly where the van is. It's 2 miles away. It's in the graveyard," and they found the van there. Then they accused me of being part of the theft. And the van, by the way, had no engine in it or wheels left, and everything was gone out inside of it. And it was a real fight to just get an insurance claim on that, because I offered and told them where I intuitively knew the van was. It just flashed in my mind. I went, oh, that's exactly where it is. So it was a common sense thing too, in the sense of, it's 2 miles away. It's in a, it's dusk. It's in a graveyard. Nobody's going to be, bothering these people. So in my life, if it weren't for intuition, I would not be able to have achieved. I wouldn't have been safe. There's been so many things in my life. But when I get this thing about this shall not pass, this will not come into being, no matter what they say on the news, no matter how bad things are looking, I just go, well, this will just pass. It'll just pass away. Sort of like Biden's, free college tuition.
Yeah.
I said, oh, that's never going to make it. That's just completely not going to happen. So, all right. So one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you was because in the book of The Outwitting the Devil, they talked a great deal about Napoleon Hill's connection with his own guidance counselors. And they were imaginary, but they were like Edison and Ford and Lincoln. And, some people were alive, some people weren't alive. But they gave him really a whole action plan of what he should be doing, and that he should leave a certain place and go somewhere else and do this and contact people. And all of that worked out perfect for him. And if he hadn't followed the directions precisely, probably most of those things wouldn't have worked out. And he was actually in physical danger, where one of his partners had been murdered, and in his right. Intuition actually said, you have to go hide for a while to survive. So let's talk about your book and your whole concept of this imaginary counsel and how they can help you.
Okay. Well, the Enchanted Boardroom, it's actually being rewritten. So here, where'd it go? Here it is. And it's on my shelf, right in front there. The Enchanted Boardroom was written after I read a book. It's very interesting. To preface this, I read the book by, it's not here because it's in my computer bag, The Corporate Mystic. And when I read The Corporate Mystic, I knew that I had to do something and open a leadership center, and I did in 2001. And I had my own leadership center from 2001 to 2009. And it was because I knew from the bottom of my heart that my mission was to work with entrepreneurs, business people, and help them access all sides of themselves instead of living in this very practical world. And to give you a little bit of heads up, when I owned a manufacturing company in my late 20s, and I said to my partners at the time, I wanted to call it Transitions Limited, because we are helping business owners with their finding solutions, transition out of problems into solutions, that kind of thing. And we were building electrical control panels and baggage racks for railroad cars. And we were finding solutions to improve the technology. And they just looked at me like I was absolutely nuts using the word transition. So we didn't use that. So that all fell into play as I was writing the Enchanted Boardroom, because the energy of this very masculine, practical energy needing to be at the front of business was not necessarily true. Because what I found when I lived in solely the practical world, I was unhappy, I was miserable. The people around me were miserable. Excuse me, the people around me were miserable. So the Enchanted Boardroom starts this specific book. And again, remember I said it's being rewritten. It's the practical, the tactical, the logical, merged with the intuitive, the emotional, and the spiritual. And it was written in that format. The very front of it includes the intuitive leadership business success model that talks about foundation and ideas, people and performance, and shiftology, which I own shiftology.com, and how to transition people into the tasks. So in decision making, which is in this book, I created a technique using the quick shift zone that I talked about earlier, where we can use mind maps. And in these mind maps, we write down all the practical solutions, and then we go into the heart to write down the emotional solutions. So you have both sides on a powerful mind map to give you the answers of what you need. Then enter number 3. And this is where we create the spiritual boardroom. Just like people have practical boardrooms, live boardrooms where people give you insight, their ideas, their opinions, on and on, we can create a spiritual council. I call them the Enchanted Boardroom, which, by the way, that name came to me when I was having some body work done, and I just heard the words, the Enchanted Boardroom. That is what you're to write about. And I went, oh, okay, that's the name of the next book. And I did. And the technique is to go into the quick shift zone. And when you get to the part where you are, which is step number 3, going to a place of love and appreciation and just feeling really good, you set up an invitation to your spiritual guides to show themselves. And little by little, they will begin to do that. And I do that in a guided meditation for people. Sometimes you can't do it first on your own. And my personal boardroom has 22 guides. They have bob, weaved, and shifted. I have had historical figures sit on my boardroom. I've had spiritual figures, angels, saints, you name it. They sit on my boardroom. And I tap into them the moment I wake up. And I ask them to guide me and help me stay in neutral so that I can listen to the intuition that comes. Every single person I've worked with has, in my one-on-one coaching, has created a boardroom that has allowed them in their mindset to go to where they need to go. We create a place. Mine showed up in an emerald pyramid, for crying out loud, in the rainforest. I was like, whoa, okay, I can do this. And that's where they kept going. Every time I tapped into my Enchanted Boardroom, that's where I was taken for the first 10 years. And now it's a very different place. Now it's nowhere. Now it's, they just come in, they just are right in front of me. So as I have evolved they have evolved in their presentation of how they come to me and the information that comes. And it's so powerful because the insights that do come have up-leveled me to a space where I was very ill in my early years. I'm now the healthiest I've ever been. So the spiritual boardroom is key to business success, relational success, health success, and financial success.
If people just tuned in, would you go back over the phrases again on how you get into this state of mind?
Sure. First step, this is the quick shift zone. Okay. First step, we shift out of here into our body, into this part of the body. By the way, the reason we do that is the energy of the brain itself. We are electromagnetic fields. You can measure it, and it's only 2 inches in a 360 circumference in the body. The heart energy is 6 to 10 feet away from the body in a 360-degree circumference. That's how powerful it is. So when we shift from the brain into the heart and we're creating coherence, we are working with 2 brains instead of 1. Okay, so I think that's a pretty powerful thing. So we shift into the heart, we breathe. I ask people to put their hand on their chest. The hand becomes an air magnet. They're breathing in and out of their hand into the chest area. As they breathe, and with each breath, they're relaxing their body. They then go to a place of love and joy. And that means either holding a baby, holding a significant other, walking on the beach, jumping out of a perfectly good airplane, whatever it is that makes you happy. Okay, whatever it is. And then once you get into that state, to bring in the spiritual boardroom, if you're doing that part of the exercise, you invite your wise inner counsel to present themselves, to show themselves, and to come into being. And some people have 3, some people have 22 like I do. Some people may only have 6 or 7. Every single one of them are different. Some of my clients have met on the beach. That's where they like to meet with their enchanted boardroom. Like I said, I used to meet with mine in an emerald pyramid, made literally out of emerald slabs. Don't go there anymore. They just come in a beautiful place. It used to, and then from there it evolved into, it looked almost like the Knights of the Round Table, and different ones would walk in. So is it imaginary? Sometimes I get out of there thinking, gosh, I have touched every single one of them. I'm not so sure it is imaginary. Can it be imaginary? Of course. However, when you listen that deeply and you allow the information to come, and the information propels you forward towards your goals, how can you dispute that? How can you dispute that? And you just listen, you ask the questions, and you do the pause, the samurai pause. I'm going to use your term, the samurai pause. Ask another question, the samurai pause again. Ask another question, the samurai pause. And I often, after I do my sessions with my enchanted boardroom, and they're with me all day, I will journal what came through so I remember it. There are times when I, on my computer, ask a question, type it out. This is me typing it out, automatic journaling, forward and backwards. And I will invite my enchanted boardroom in at that time and say, okay, enchanted boardroom, this is my question. And then as the answers are coming to me, I just type it out. And the answers are mind-blowing. And that's how I wrote 1-800-Courtesy. The book that's over my shoulder there, that's the first book I wrote, and I wrote that in 1998. That's a book on telephone skills, folks.
Yeah, not a lot of intuition and
Oh,
telephone skills.
in 1998. So you can use your enchanted boardroom for all kinds of things, all kinds of things. And now the enchanted boardroom, again, as I mentioned, is being rewritten, because at the time I wrote it from the perspective of practical, of the practical, the personal, and the spiritual. The new rewrite is the other way around. It's spiritual first, personal, and practical. and it will be coming out hopefully in November.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. I actually use what I call a workshop of the mind.
Yep.
And so what I do is when I have a challenge, I'm not really completely clear about what to do, is I go into my own little private space where I can have, private time and no one is interrupting me. And I usually, I'm a practical person too. I usually write out in advance, this is exactly the solution that I need for this situation. So for
Mhm.
example, not too terribly long ago, I was interviewing people and, look, all the resumes sort of blended together and, just hiring someone new. I don't trust the resumes all that much. So I've got to feel them. And what I did is I went in that room and I took each individual and I wanted to see if they were actually could show up in the room with me, to see if I could work with that person and see, see down the road, see were they with me in 3 months or 6 months or a year? Because that is so important to me when I train someone that, I'm training them for a long period of time. And if I go in that room and I've called them in and I can't see them in a short period of time, I never hire them.
That's right, because they're not meant to be there.
Right. And so the workshop of the mind also is like, because I do speeches and promote books and all kinds of stuff, everybody's always got, okay, we'll do this and do that and do the other. I'll go play with that in the workshop of my mind and ask my own higher self, um, okay, is this a feasible thing? Give me a feeling, give me a sign. And sometimes when I ask Terry, I'll get some information there, but then information could come the next morning while I'm in the shower or I'm walking on the beach or I'm taking the dog for a walk. So it doesn't always come in one big download. It will come, as I can sort of piece it together. I really want everyone who is listening to this, and we're so happy that you're here, but if you're listening to this, just try this. Just, have some situation that's been making you feel uncomfortable and uneasy, and that you're just not completely clear what you should be doing about it. Use Terry's, I call it the countdown, to put you in that kind of frame of mind. And look, we have to make decisions all the time that there is no time to go meditate in our bedroom. We're at the airport and, we got to make a decision. There's 3 airlines. I got to make this flight. So which one am I going to?
Exactly.
So as you know, I also use muscle testing. I also use
Mhm.
pendulum work to get the probabilities of things, because I believe you can definitely measure energy. But what we're really doing is we're opening up this portal within ourselves
Mhm.
that our entire educational system had closed down, because everything was not about learning anything in school. It was about literally memorizing just to pass the test. There
Yes,
wasn't any practical stuff in there. And from listening to me that school didn't like me, because after every class I'd go, how do you monetize this? How do you make money from this? I mean, how am I going to use this in my life? So, they weren't happy about that. So, what could you add to that about other, people who might not be able in the very beginning start off with, talking to Abraham Lincoln or Napoleon
sure, sure,
Hill
sure.
or somebody?
Well, you mentioned something about the sway test. And the sway I do muscle. Well, you're talking about muscle testing. And muscle testing is super easy. It really, really is. And I'd love to share a quick story, if I may, about how the sway test, which is a form of muscle testing. I use my fingers like you do. And the sway test is about the body's natural intuition moving forward or backwards. And just 2 days ago, I haven't talked to you about this yet, Lily. 2 days ago, I was sitting here, a project that I was doing sort of went south, and it was a good thing that it went south. But I was sort of in a mode of, I was just hovering, I was in neutral. didn't know where to go, what to do, how to do it. And I started doing the sway test. I started muscle testing. Another colleague of mine said, Terry, why don't we do what you taught me to do? Why don't you do the sway test? Duh. So I think, okay, let me do the sway test.
Amnesia.
Amnesia. Let me do the sway test. And we started asking certain questions, and all of us, and it had to do with because I have the 3 brands: intuitive leadership, shiftology, and the sacred healing events. But I wanted to put something underneath. I wanted a banner to put this stuff under because it's getting too cumbersome and too obnoxious. And I couldn't figure out. I had a name. Everything went south. End of story. So I started asking the questions, and my body would go forward for yes, backwards for no. And the questions were so powerful. And finally I got, okay, do I know what the name is? Yes. I'm like, what do you mean I know what the name is? And I kept getting pushed forward, and I got pushed forward hard. So I knew the name. I'm like, okay, well, do I own the domain? I own 92 domains, for crying out loud. Do I own the domain for what the name is? And I literally got pushed into the kitchen table so hard that the kitchen table moved. I went, all right, got it. I'm listening. And I went on to and looked at all the names of my domains, and I muscle tested each and every one of them, and it was not working. And all of a sudden I went back to this one and went, of course it didn't work. I bought a domain in 2006 called the Smile Initiative. And I bought the .com and the .org. I've had people try and buy it from me forever. But it was always meant to be the name of my foundation. And what I realized is the Smile Initiative, and it makes me smile. The Smile Initiative stands for spirit, mindset, intuition, leadership, and empowerment.
Okay, it's very cool.
And I put my fingers on in Canva. I created the new cover. Everything was done. Bada bing, bada boom. I did it all in 8 hours. Done. And done. The homepage is done. The Facebook page, all of it was done. It just happened. It just flowed because I did the muscle testing, because I used a tool that my subconscious was screaming for me to use. But another colleague said, why don't you use what you taught me to use? Hello. and the muscle testing is so powerful. The pendulum work is it's the same thing. And when you learn how to muscle test, you're using it, it's kinesiology. You're allowing your subconscious body to guide you where to go. And you get out of that practical place. And I'm going to be writing about that more in the new revision of the Enchanted Boardroom. I'm going to be talking about muscle testing. I'm going to be talking about how to work with the sway test and that kind of thing, because I didn't do it the first time. And it's such a powerful, powerful tool that I even use it in the stores when I'm shopping. I'll pull up a blouse and I go, yes or no. And if it's a no, I put it back, even though I love everything about it. Because what I've learned is every time I go into the dressing room, when my body says no and I ignored it, my body was right. Either the fit, usually it didn't fit, is what it was, or the style didn't, something didn't work. So the people in the security bubbles in the ceiling are watching me going forward and backwards throughout the as I'm going up and down the aisles, but it works.
So to give everybody a reference on if you're not familiar with this, there's a book you could invest in by Dr. John Diamond, and it's called Your Body Doesn't Lie. It'll teach you all about kinesiology. And once you read that book, Your Body Doesn't Lie, and that will help you immensely knowing who to trust, who has integrity, who doesn't have integrity, who's a fraud, that sort of thing. Yeah. The other book that you might want to pick up is called Power versus Force, and that is by Dr. David Hawkins. Now, this is not the David Hawkins in the wheelchair who recently passed. This Dr. David Hawkins was a psychologist, a very famous psychologist. He has great videos on YouTube about kinesiology and muscle testing. and allowing your body to tell you what's true and what isn't true. And really, that's what the point of Terry and I are here about today, is if you're not familiar with these tools will not only give you confidence and excitement and enthusiasm that you're sort of like a superhuman, in the sense that you're not going to get duped, because something is going to go awry where your body's going to go, but like not swaying in the right way. I use muscle testing more than I do the swaying, because sometimes I'm in public places, it's kind of hard to do that. But really, our whole purpose today in this short time that we're together is to get you to open up to the fact that you're not alone. You've never been alone. Your higher self, if you wish to call it that. I like to actually call my higher self my extended self, because that higher self is extended to other spiritual realms and spiritual connections. And I'm a very spiritual person. I am not a religious person at all, but I am completely spiritual. And one of my books is called Spiritual Power Tools for Successful Selling. So I merged, spirituality with this down real thing called selling. And I'm always asking for the highest and best. So again, we've given you some tools today. We're going to continue to give you tools here on this brand new network. We're so excited about it. And we really want you to start looking at all of the hosts that are on this Grassroots Warrior Network, because each and every one of them are completely different. We're bringing different stuff. So Terry, we've come to the end of our journey. So do you have any ending words, and how can people find you?
Always listen to your heart. Always. Your heart speaks volumes. That's the best advice I can give anybody. Listen to your heart and your intuition. And they can find me at intuitiveleadership.com or at smileinitiative.com, which goes to the same place. And I'm all over social media, Facebook, LinkedIn. Reach out to me. I would love to have a conversation about how intuition can amplify your life.
Absolutely. And also, Terry is part of our what we call the Entrepreneurs Club. It's called Success Smarts Club, and you can find out a lot about that at milteer.com, Milteer. My name is right there at milteer.com, and just go under Success Smarts Club. And we have really like-minded people there. They're all creators, they're artists, they're entrepreneurs, they're business owners, and they're all on the side of truth, which is really good because we repel people who are not. I'd also like to tell you about my latest best-selling book real quick. It's also about intuition. It's called Activate Your Inner Power. It made bestseller on 4 categories. It's on Amazon. And this is one of these great books that we're using our intuition with. We think of our problem, just glitter through it until your body says, oh, that's it. And here is what we got for you today. Act as if, and you are your only limit. How about that? And these are good.
And 22 is one of my favorite numbers, as you know. And oh, by the way, Lee, I just want to let you know that book I used yesterday. I had a 4-hour healing VIP session with clients where I do all of my healing stuff to get rid of all of the success blocks. And I used your book as the opener. I had each person choose a number from 1 to 100 to 214. I think you have 214 different little chapters there. And I asked each of them to give me their number, and I read each part, and they were right spot on with it. So I just want to let you know, I used it even for my training and healing program yesterday. So
well, that's great. I've had these really rough, tough dudes, biker guys almost going, oh, that's just ridiculous. I mean, who are you kidding? And then they get the book and they go, holy cow, how can it know that? The other thing I have, folks, real quick, is my Magic of Prayers. This is actually made a best-selling book also. So if you go to Amazon, you can find these. Success is an inside job, and then the magic of Reclaim the Magic are just few of my books. So it's milteer.com. And folks, again, the links below, please, we would love for you to share and like and help us get this heart-based network of true patriots and people who want to make the United States of America great again and everywhere else in the world great again. So folks, thank you so much. And Terry, thank you so much for your wonderful wisdom. And I'm here on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So please check in and I'll have good stuff for you every week, I promise. Signing off now. Thank you.